the Australian Human Rights Commission, who have already free-kicked $1 million case to the opposition in a super case, now has to intervene by stopping my prejudice and discrimination at the AAT next Wednesday. So I'm going to call them. It's going around in circles. Where's the number? 1300 656 419.
Your call is important to us and will be answered by the next available information officer. The Australian Human Rights Commission can investigate and try to resolve complaints about discrimination because of a person's race, disability, sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, intersex status, pregnancy, marital or relationship status, family responsibilities or age in certain areas of public life. This includes employment, education, providing goods and services, and accommodation. We can also deal with complaints about sexual harassment and racial hatred. Our laws also cover discrimination. Australian Human Rights Commission, Tallulah speaking.
Oh, hello. I'm sorry, I missed your name there for a second.
Hey, my name's Tallulah.
Tallulah. Hi, Tallulah. How are you? This is Barry.
Hi, Barry. I'm well, thanks. How can I help?
Well, I've got an issue that's coming up very soon. I'm a person who identifies with a disability, and I have, well, it's a difficult thing. My work cover case is going to the AAT, or it already has, and it's having a directions hearing on the 30th of this month, next Wednesday. Now, prior to this, I had actually suffered detriment from many government agencies, and that caused me to suicide in a public hospital. I say suicide still talking because the Freedom of Information from the hospital says it was a lethal attempt and a fatal injury. So I won't go into bore you with all the details of the systemic oppression. However, the AAT and HCF, my insurer, have rejected my work cover claim and my income assist claim when I was character assassinated and discriminated against for having a disability at my work. It was rendered illegitimate, and I realised I was framed, and I took some sick leave, and both HCF and also AFCA refused to pay me out overdue determinations, which they're legally bound to do within 4 weeks for a marginalised person. Now, all this is very complicated, but my main issue this week is my work cover case is going to a directions hearing at the Administrative Appeals Tribunal on Wednesday. Now, the government has already literally oppressed me to death, and then an ombudsman actually covered that up, as well as other agents, Mental Health Complaints Commissioner and Health Complaints Commissioner, as innocuous and nothing to see, despite it contravening their duty of care and my human rights charter, because it was an agreed illegal contraband that I committed the suicide with. So my immediate concern is that my work cover case is now a TPD, or likely a TPD, but because I've been so character assassinated over years, from that suicide, I have not seen one psychologist, and it's been an entire year. And that's more than a bad public mental health system. That is a methodology to delay, defer, and deny any help or justice in the hope that I kill myself. Now, on Wednesday, my case goes before the Administrative Appeals Tribunal, and I have begged and pleaded with them because they have already got a 25-year experienced lawyer who knows the litigation backwards, and I don't even understand, with a brain injury, why they're rejecting it. I don't understand it, and they're forcing me to go through the directions hearing when the Charter of Human Rights for People with Disabilities states I must not be exploited and I must not have inequitable access to the law. And it also states that I can't be taken advantage of, or all those things. That is enshrined in the legislation of this country. Now, I am a particularly interesting character in that I've been oppressed by so many organisations. I've now been rendered a innocuous vagrant, I'm homeless, and a scapegoat and a refugee in my own democracy. That is because I cannot go to police to report rape, murder, tax fraud, money laundering, conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, anything. I can't be a whistleblower at APRA, at ASIC, at the Commonwealth Ombudsman. I can't get a lawyer. For the last 30 years, I haven't had a lawyer. There is something that's happening behind the scenes, which I think what it is, that is rendering me unable to access prosperity. And further, because of the suicide over a year ago, for which I have not got help, was rejected my medication, was put on job seeker, and then I begged for a pension because I can't think properly, because I lost all my blood and my hippocampus the memory has gone. I've lived in abject poverty for an entire year. But my immediate case is the directions hearing on Wednesday could be the tipping point of losing about $2 million. I have no agency to go to the police. I have no agency to get a lawyer. I've begged them, I've showed them the law and said, you are not allowed as public officials to act opposing the human legal rights and the Charter for Human Rights of People with a Disability, because it's law in this country. It was ratified in 2008. So what am I supposed to do? I have already predicted that I would lose another case actually at your organisation, the Australian Human Rights Commission, because I had a conciliation with you guys with a superannuation company who discriminated against me, and the conciliator at Australian Human Rights Commission actually free kicked. The other company said they weren't going to do it anymore. So the Australian Human Rights Commission actually free kicked that TPD and income assist case freely without explaining the law to the opposition. So I lost $1.5 million there. That was the fault of the Australian Human Rights Centre. And then there was the case of HCF, my insurer, who didn't pay me out. And then there was the case of AFCA. There was from $1 to $2.5 million of overdue determinations, and they've cancelled them all because I called them out for being conspiratorial, and now I'm going to the AAT, and they are well aware that they're breaking the law, but I don't have any dignity, any rights. I'm abused, oppressed, and gaslighted. I have actually written to Mclean, the Attorney General, and I told her of the corruption at Comcare and all of this stuff that I've just told you, and all of the systemic organisations and statutory organisations that are under her portfolio. Now, I explained it in great detail, and she emailed me back via proxy by someone else who had no name and sent me to the same helpline.
Which helpline was that?
Pardon?
Which helpline was that she sent you to?
Oh, it was Lifeline or the Sane Australia helpline or something.
Sane. Sorry, I said sane. Okay. Alright, so taking that you've raised kind of multiple issues, let's deal with them one at a time. So I'm hearing that your main concern is the upcoming AAT directions hearing on Wednesday.
That's correct, because it's illegal for me to have unequal access to the law.
Yeah.
And now they've got a 25-year strong lawyer who's already who's defending the government, but the government's behind this whole thing to literally, who's literally aided and abetted my death and then covered it up with an ombudsman anyway. I'm going to lose because the Attorney General already knows about it and she won't do anything.
So, who would your complaint be against?
Oh, where do I start? There's a conspiracy to pervert the course of justice.
By who?
By who? Well, I've mentioned all the statutory authorities and the corruption going up to the Attorney General, the Finance Minister. I haven't told you the whole story yet. But it's absolutely systemic. There is no way in hell that a person who has been a public advocate for 20 years and had public roles in newspapers, Human Rights Award winning book, and actually I had Sane's Book of the Year, could not go to police, not be a whistleblower, and not get a lawyer. It's preposterous.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying in terms of it being systemic. But the way our complaint handling mechanism kind of works is that you do have to lodge it against someone or an organisation. So I'm just wondering if you had someone kind of focused in mind that you would be seeking to complain against.
Well, I've got one thing to say first. What if I had a beef about the Australian Human Rights Commission? Like, where would I go? I'd go to the Ombudsman. But I'm already framed from the Ombudsman. They're acting with impunity to defile me of any prosperity, and I have suffered great detriment, not only in money, but I've been framed, I've lost my friends, I've lost my family, I'm now brain damaged, and I'm just about to lose, predictably, as I predicted APRA, HCF, and Australian Human Rights Centre, I'm about to lose $1.5 million. So I would like the Australian Human Rights Commission to acknowledge that as a person with a disability, there is a charter of human rights and disability law. The AAT, as public officials, are bound by that. They are not allowed to go forward with this action legally.
Yeah, so in terms of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, which do administer that. So in terms of making complaints of human rights breaches, if you wanted to raise or assert your rights against, under, I should say, the Convention of the Rights of People with Disabilities, it would be open for you to do that, of course.
Well, it has to be fast because it's happening next Wednesday.
Yeah, so there's just a couple of issues before we get to that stage. So firstly, you would still need to identify who you're seeking to make that complaint against.
The AAT.
Right, okay. So
And Mclean Cash. And I could name other people too. The Finance Minister, Birmingham, the Prime Minister. I could name this NDIA Senator Reynolds. There's so many people I could name. They're all in it together.
Yeah, okay. So complaints of human rights breaches can only be lodged against Commonwealth government agencies. That's the first thing to note.
Well, I'll do it against the AAT.
With respect to complaints about the AAT, it really depends what specific act you're complaining about. The reason I say that is because it's got to be... I'll start again. Tribunal members are protected by what's called judicial immunity when they're exercising judicial functions. So if it's a part of the AAT that's to do with a judicial function, then they're going to be protected by judicial immunity and we won't be able to look at it. If it's an administrative function or something that's separate from the decision of a tribunal member, then we might be able to look at it. Does that make sense?
I've already got 3 decisions from the AAT and they keep pushing it along, strangling me, delaying, deferring and denying and watching me suffer. I've lived in abject poverty. They owe me work cover.
See, we can't kind of overturn a decision of the AAT and we can't look at it as a claim of human rights breaches because judicial immunity will probably apply.
So out of that whole story and the apex of it losing $1.5 million as a brain damaged, mentally ill, homeless person, you're saying they've got immunity from the law and you're the Australian Human Rights Commission, is that correct?
We are the Australian Human Rights Commission, but again...
And you exercise the Charter of Human Rights against People with Disabilities, and you exercise that right, and you actually lay down the law because you are an independent statutory organisation, and you are supposed to deal that out systemically, and further, that is supposed to be legislated into law. And it actually says in the legislation in the Crimes Act that public officials of public standing, including police officers, including judicial people, including everyone else, should actually never go outside the boundaries of the human rights law, and they should never go outside the boundaries of the Charter for Human Rights and People with Disabilities, because in actual fact, it's signed and ratified by the government. And now you're telling me as a public official that this other official has got immunity. And by doing that, you're actually denying my rights.
So it depends on what specific act you're talking about from the tribunal member or the tribunal.
See, and there we go again. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a brain damaged, mentally ill, homeless person.
You've got a couple of options. We can continue trying to talk about it now, but I understand, it might be difficult with explanations over the phone. If you want the delegate to make a formal assessment of it, you're more than welcome to lodge an online complaint.
No, I'd like to just get an acknowledgement right now that you're going to stand in the way, either today or tomorrow, and send the AAT a letter saying we're the Australian Human Rights Commission. We put in place and exercise this law for statutory people with a disability, and we're halting the meeting in which the government has a 25-year lawyer and Richard is a brain damaged person who has suicided from government oppression already, and you were taking advantage of him and discriminating against him. That's what I want you to do. I direct you to do that, please.
Fortunately, we're not going to be able to do that. A few issues. We're not able to make a determination as to whether or not discrimination has occurred. With respect to...
Oh, can you take a stab in the dark, Dale, about what's been going on? Can you just take a big wide berth guess and guess what's going on for me, Dale? Discrimination, right?
Realistically, our complaint processes take longer than 5 days. So
well, I haven't got 5 days.
Yeah, I appreciate that, which means we're probably not the best body for you to be speaking to. If you need help...
You know what? The Australian Human Rights Commission... Can I have your name, please?
Yeah, my name's Tallulah.
Tallulah? Tallulah who?
We don't give last names.
You don't give last names. Gee, isn't that interesting about how complicit, pen-pushing government whores paid like hookers to toe the party line to keep me oppressed are sitting in their privilege, and they reject me. You've just rejected me on an extremely awful topic and a heinous discrimination, and you're saying you're not the best body, or you're saying that like the it's going to take too long. All I need you to do is say, this is the law, you're not allowed to go forward with it. What's too hard about that?
There may have been a misunderstanding. I was trying to explain the law and the complaint handling powers that we have to you. I'm happy to go on, but you'll have to use respectful language, otherwise I will terminate the call.
I'll be polite. Look, I was just commenting on the fact that government bureaucrats who are in government are systemically opposed to me. And they're paid money to protect these people in positions of privilege and power. I am an exploitable person, and I have a mental illness. I'm gay. I'm brain damaged. I've used drugs in the past. I've been framed from everything from a rapist to a pedophile and a dog rooter. Now, and an extortionist. Now, what chance do you think of me being character assassinated? And I can't believe. Well, actually, I can believe it. I shouldn't be surprised that all government agencies, especially the Australian Human Rights Commission, having already free-kicked a $1 million case to the opposition, like this is after I came out of hospital, and further, they actually advocated your company or your statutory authority body. I complained to you guys about my suicide in hospital with an agreed illegal contraband that was had malpractice in it. It had human rights abuses. It was illegal, and a government ombudsman condoned it, and so did you. In addition, you also condoned a dispute which took ages to get to a conciliation, and the other party decides to leave. So you send me a letter with all this legislation I don't understand that says it's no longer on, and I lose $1.5 million. So in actual fact, it's folding in on itself because the Australian Human Rights Commission are not actually a human rights commission at all, are they? They're just a body to sit there to dabble around and pretend they're actually looking after people, when you can literally see people camping out on the streets, people are beaten up, people are raped, people are murdered. What do you actually do there?
We administer federal discrimination law and take complaints about that and complaints of human rights breaches.
Do you think I have a human rights breach in that whole story that I just told you?
So in terms of your particular situation and the assistance that you're seeking, it doesn't sound like we're the best body to be helping you out with it, no.
Well, if you're not the best body to help me out, who on earth could help me out, seeing as I can't go to a lawyer, I have no money, I'm homeless, I'm brain damaged, I can't go to the ombudsman, and I can't go as a whistleblower? Where do you expect me to go if not to you?
Sounds like you need legal advice, if I'm perfectly honest.
You know what? That's the most preposterous thing I've ever heard if you've known my existential experience, because I've tried my best to reach out to law people for the best part of 25 years. And I am catastrophically character assassinated. I don't want the letter, I don't want the referral line to Victorian Legal Aid. I don't want a referral to Justice Connect. I don't want a referral to your lawyer. I don't want a referral to VOCAT, who's also discriminated against me, and I lost 2 VOCAT cases. And I think I've proven, even though I'm brain damaged and I'm forgetful and can hardly form my words, that I've just proven beyond reasonable doubt that the Australian Human Rights Commission are actually a part of the conspiracy that has aided and abetted my death, and they have ruined my finances. And now I've brought all this up and tell you, and you tell me it's not appropriate. You tell me the law doesn't work. You tell me people have got excuses. And then you tell me to go to a lawyer. I'm a homeless, brain dead, mentally ill, angry, scapegoated, gaslighted, and systemically oppressed and character assassinated person. What do you have to say to me, please?
Not too sure what else I can do to help you.
Could you apologise?
I'm not too sure what I'm apologising for.
Well, it's clear I've got human rights abuses that are systemic from many people over years and years and years. Now, you as the Australian Human Rights Commission, I mean, you could apologise, I don't know, for not being able to help me today. You could apologise for making excuses. You could apologise for being complicit and eating the steak and prawns and champagne while I eat bread. And you can reject me. You can reject me. That's a position of privilege that you're in. And I'm a marginalised person, and you're the Australian Human Rights Commission, and you refuse to act for me in any way whatsoever, and you've referred me to some lawyer. That's just great. I've recorded this conversation without your permission because it's the only way I'm going to be able to take this to the Federal Circuit Court of Australia and hold you all accountable. Bitch.